This is rental car number 76, and today I'm driving the 2018 Toyota Camry SE. This is a four-door mid-size sedan that retails for about $26,000. And you get a lot for your buck. There's actually quite a bit of fun features to talk about. So let's pop the hood and start with taking a look at what's underneath. So the SE trim level is about middle of the pack when it comes to Camrys, and you only get one option for engines. You get a 2.5 liter four-cylinder engine. Toyota calls it its dynamic force engine. It's an 8-speed automatic that kicks out 203 horsepower, and with that you get some decent gas mileage. You get 28 miles per gallon in the city and 39 on the highway with a 16-gallon fuel tank. So a four-cylinder at 203 horsepower, it's not that great, but let me show you how this car performs, because it's actually pretty fun. So this is me basically flooring it out of a closed way station off the interstate. And I just wanted to show you that this car performs pretty well. I mean, I'm getting some pretty decent acceleration out of this four-cylinder engine. Obviously, you're not going to set any speed records with this car. My point here is that it's actually fun to drive, which is kind of surprising because I always think of the Camry as kind of like a family-style four-door sedan. Anyway, this is just my long-winded way of saying if you're comfortable with the specs on this car, you're not going to be disappointed. Toyota's done a nice job. Alright, so let me stop babbling and let's jump inside and take a look at the interior of the Camry. So here's the key for the Camry. 4 buttons on the front, really nothing on the back but the logo. And it's got a flip out key option. So you just press this button here on the top and the key flips out. Alright, so let's start it up and see what happens. So there's a short startup animation in the display in the gauge cluster, and then a similar animation on the main display in the center of the console. It's fairly subtle. I like it. Anyway, here's the view of the steering wheel. On the left-hand side, you have a bunch of buttons. These help you navigate through the menus in the center display of the gauge cluster, and you also get volume rockers. On the right-hand side, you get your cruise controls, and you also get 2 additional features. This button right here will activate adaptive cruise control, and then below it, you have the button to turn on lane departure alerts right there. Just a real quick summary of those 2 additional options. Adaptive cruise control means that when you set the car at cruise and the vehicle in front of you slows down, well, the Camry is automatically going to slow down too. And lane detection departure, lane departure detection, essentially means that the car is going to see the lanes in the road that you're driving on, and if you sort of veer off gently out of your lane, well, the car is actually going to nudge you back into your lane. So it won't drive for you, but it will push you back into your lane if you're not paying attention and you drift off just a little bit. Alright, but back to the steering wheel. Above the steering wheel you get a nice gauge cluster with 2 big dials and a nice display right there in the center. Lots of colors here, really easy to view, and tons of menu options for you to cycle through. And then to the left of the steering wheel you get all your standard buttons. Window controls, door locks, your mirror controls, or that small knob you see right at the front, and then up above there you get a panel with buttons to control the automatic headlights, traction control, release the trunk, and release the fuel cap. Alright, and then shifting your gaze to the right of the steering wheel and up at the roof, you get 2 lights to light up the cabin, a nice size sunglass holder, and then a standard rear view mirror. Nothing really special up here at all. And then below there you get a nice big screen with buttons on the left and right side to help you navigate through all the menu structures. This is a good but not great system. The screen, although pretty crisp, doesn't have a lot of colors to it. There's also not a lot of apps or exciting things for you to play around with. Although there are a couple of screens that show you real-time miles per gallon for the vehicle and other things. But overall, essentially, this is just your standard entertainment system where you're going to play your audio. In other words, it works great, it's just not very exciting. Below there you have your climate controls, 2 nice dials to control the fan and the temperature setting. There's also a digital readout to tell you exactly what temperature you set the interior of the vehicle. And then there's some other buttons for all the important stuff. This worked great. I have absolutely no complaints about it. And then all the way down at the bottom of the center console, you get a couple of ports down here, a USB port, auxiliary jack, and a 12-volt power port. And down here there's also a little storage space that I found pretty good to store my cell phone, though it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to reach around the gear shift to get to it. The gear shift itself is actually kind of exciting. Well, maybe not exciting, but it's interesting. Each different gear, park, reverse, drive, and neutral, has its own LED light. So it's kind of hard to see, but drive is blue, right? You can see it right there. When you shift it to neutral, that's green. And then when you shift it to reverse, that's red. And then lastly, when you shift it to park, well, that's blue. I don't know. I thought it was a nice, interesting touch and something I found myself really looking at while I was driving the vehicle. And then next to that, you get two nice sized cup holders. Nothing really interesting here. Behind there, you get your center armrest with a nice storage space. And then next to the passenger seat, well, I guess in front of the passenger seat, you get a glove box with a decent amount of storage. And I guess you'll see Enterprise left me a ton of paperwork in there. And then a nice 2018 Camry owner's manual. Alright, so that's the front seat. Let's jump in the back seat because there's a couple of interesting features I want to share with you. First off, these cloth seats, I don't know if you can see, but they're pretty sharp looking. Feel pretty comfortable too. I don't know, most of the Toyotas I've driven have kind of ugly seats, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Also, these are the car seat anchors. They have these little plastic pieces that come off, and then they expose the car seat anchors, so it's really easy to set up a car seat. I got young kids, so this is a huge, huge plus. At least in my opinion. I mean, when it's a pain in the butt to install a car seat, it is infuriating. So it's nice to see that Toyota's making some changes with this kind of thing. And then I know it's not very interesting, but there is a center armrest that folds down with two decent sized cup holders. And I want to mention that the legroom back here it's okay. I'm 6 feet tall, I had plenty of legroom, but this is not a huge vehicle, so don't expect to have a ton of space for your passengers back here. There's also no USB or power ports back here, which I guess is a little bit disappointing, but at least for me it's not a deal breaker. And then finally, these seats do fold down flat so you can store larger items if you're going to use the trunk space. I just found it a little bit strange how you release these seats. I looked for a while and I couldn't find anything in the interior of the vehicle. You actually have to open up the trunk and pull these little knobs to release those seats. I don't know, I think that's kind of annoying. Alright, so that's the back seat. Let's close things out by talking about the trunk. But before we do, I just want to point out that Toyota has added, I don't know, a little bit of style back here. There is a little bit of a flare on the top of the trunk. Not quite a spoiler, but it does look nice in my opinion. The trunk itself is a good size. Honestly, I don't think you're going to have any problems hauling things around back here in the Camry. And it's also nice to see that underneath the floor, there's a small section where you can store some tools. Alright, so that's basically everything end to end from the 2018 Toyota Camry. After spending 3 days with this car and putting over 200 miles on it, I think I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Great car. For $26,000, I think you get a ton of options, especially that adaptive cruise control and lane detection alerts. Those things are a ton of fun to play with, but I'd really love to see an update to that center display. It's just not up to the standard that I think that the other manufacturers have set recently. Anyway, that's my take on it. If you disagree, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time when I rent my 77th rental car. That's going to be a 2018 Volvo. I'll see you then.